And it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shakirah Dramat. How are you, my sister?
I'm very good.
Good, good. It's been like an hour of fixing some teething problems on my side.
It's okay, we're here though.
It is what it is. So cool to have you. I was just saying before we started, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. It's been something we've actually been talking about for a while.
Yeah, it has.
And to eventually get you here for me is an absolute pleasure. We're going to talk a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to get into some of the things you've been involved in that I've loved. And I actually don't even remember how we met. I think it was some hip-hop event in Woodstock, and I was just walking past, I think.
No, it was Bootlegger.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
Bootlegger
and Johnny.
with Johnny Gernon. Shout out John. Shout out my boy Johnny
Who
Gernon.
hopefully I'm going to do some work with soon. Just putting that out there.
Have you been seeing him?
Hopefully he watches this.
Yeah, no. Johnny's one of my biggest supporters actually in general in everything that I do. So
Yeah.
shout out Johnny Gernon. Yes,
Yeah.
Bootleggers.
Yes.
Oh, man.
yes.
That
Yeah.
was crazy.
I've been
Okay,
chatting to him for a bit as well, yeah.
and he's cool.
Yeah, he is, yeah,
and he's
yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
He's busy, and he's one of my biggest supporters. So shout out Johnny Gernon.
Yeah.
Another person that I met through Johnny. But it's great to have you here, and thanks for coming through. Shakirah, I just want to talk. I always like guys when they come sit with us, who they are, where they're from, how old they are, if that's okay for you to reveal. But who are you? Where did you go to school?
Such a broad question. Who are you?
Yeah, do you matter? Who will miss you when you die?
Oh, gosh.
But yeah. So I mean, what's your background school-wise, and are you from Cape Town? Because we're in Cape Town, and yeah.
Okay. So I'm from Cape Town. I'm 27 years old.
Yep.
Reaching that 30 mark. So feeling the pressure of life a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
I am from Bo-Kaap or Bo-Kaap, however you want to say it. And I went to high school in the city as well, Good Hope Seminary.
Okay.
And this year is actually my 10-year reunion, and we are hoping, we're planning a little something with the girls. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, hopefully they'll watch this too when I share it. And then after that I went and I studied public relations at CPUT. That was great. I actually wasn't like 100% sure what I wanted to study, but I was like that girl who took all the potential like grade 8s around the school and showed them like all our lovely amenities and introduced them to the principal, like the parents and that sort of thing of grade 7s.
Yep.
And then eventually, like, after about a year, my principal gave me this little badge that said public relations, and I was like, PR.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? 10 years later, this is where I am. So, I studied public relations at CPUT, and I really enjoyed it, but I couldn't see myself, like, working at an agency. I did an internship, and then I worked in an agency for a little bit.
Yep.
And then after that, I was just like, okay, I know that I'm going to work for myself. It was always just one of those things that I knew. And so after studying, I took some time, waitressed for a long time. Waitressing was actually one of those things that it's something that it's like I waitressed for 10 years from when I was 16.
Wow.
And a long time. From when I was about 16 until maybe like 9 years. Yeah. But it was just one of those experiences in my life that I wouldn't trade for anything. That it taught me so much, gave me so much character. It gave me the flexibility to chase my dreams while still earning like some stable income, all of that sort of thing. And then I have successfully been on my own for about a year and a half. Yeah.
Started a business.
Yeah. Well, I have been on a long entrepreneurial journey, but for about a year and a half, I haven't had any other forms of income. So like I haven't been waitressing or like doing like a traditional job to sort of support my dreams.
That's awesome. And we're going to come back to that because
Yeah.
I probably want to finish off with that entrepreneurial journey. But okay. So from city centre, I mean, you're as Cape Town as Cape Town can get, right?
Yes, 100%.
Born and bred in the city.
Yes.
So the city means a lot to you. And I think even after we kind of met up a few times, but I remember when, in particular, an incident or a series of events, of course, when the developers and, of course, the big machine, we can call it whatever you like, wanted to carry on just bulldozing everything, and nothing mattered but bottom line. And of course, I'm talking about Bo-Kaap at the time.
Yeah.
Or is it Bo-Kaap?
However,
I'm just going to say Bo-Kaap.
Yeah, however you want to say it.
Because I'm inconsiderate. Like whether that's the correct way to say it or not. I remember seeing you in those. I was like, hey, I know that lady. And then I heard more and more. And you seem to be in the forefront. And what was before we even get into the nitty-gritty of what was happening, what was that time like for you, if you don't mind me asking? Like individually, you know, as a person, because it would just be like, oh, there's somebody talking about where she lives. But
yeah.
we've had a few chats, and there's a bit happening in behind that, especially for you. What is that like for you?
Okay, well, I just want to, on a lighter note, before we get into the sort of heavier stuff, one of the things, because you're just talking about like the physical space that I grew up in and living in the city and that sort of thing, and something that I'm so grateful and I feel so blessed for almost every single day is the fact that I live in Bo-Kaap, but it's also like in the city, so it's kind of like having a, like, for lack of a better word, like a hood, like right in the heart of the city. So you kind of get like this, the feeling of community and the feeling that you would get if you were sort of like from the suburbs, but still having like the city right there. It's like the most incredible thing, because it allowed me to grow up with like being influenced by so many different cultures and so many different people, and so it's, I love, maybe that's also why everyone else loves Bo-Kaap and wants to be there, because it's got that sort of best of both worlds kind of thing, you know. So growing up in that environment was awesome. And then going into sort of the gentrification and activism stuff, like it's been a hectic journey.
And what happened? What led you to? I mean, it's very easy for all of us. Like, I'm middle class, I'm South African, pretty liberal, and I'm like, oh, that stuff's bad. But then I just, you know, like I just go back to my house.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I hate what's happening to black people around the world, and even in South Africa, and even in Cape Town. But then I go for a flat white at my house, you know? Like, were you on has it always been something from when you were young where you felt you fight the system?
No.
Okay, so.
Not at all. I was a very sheltered person. I still find myself in moments of being like, oh wow, Shakirah, you are quite sheltered.
Sure.
So I'm very like open to people like calling me out and educating me. But in terms of like being active in that kind of way, it only came later on in life, and I think it came when I started working and getting older, like sort of university time, after university, because that was when I really started to actually experience things like racism, you know, and when I started to be out in the world and like notice a couple things and be like, actually that's kind of strange, like, is that okay? Are people allowed to do that? And then I think also my environment just forced me to kind of get involved and to be active and to be vocal and to just talk about things. Because in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, like Bo-Kaap has changed so much and so rapidly that it was impossible to keep quiet. And one of the things that kind of pushed me sort of to the, you use the word forefront, and I kind of don't like to say that, because there are a lot of people in the community who are extremely active and who deserve praise, so I try to not use that word. But one of the things that really pushed me in the public eye, let's say that, in terms of Bo-Kaap, was the fact that I made this video on my Facebook kind of just ranting and like using a lot of profanities and sort of just like, I think people...
Which you can do here, by the way.
Yeah.
This is not a... There's no limit.
Okay, because that might happen actually.
No, feel free.
So I made this video that I was really just expressing my anger. And I make live videos on my Facebook all the time, and none of them go viral. None of them get, like, my views are very minimal, you know. But that particular video...
And you make very honest posts, by the way. I watch all your posts.
Yeah, I do.
Not in like a creepy way.
No, I'm a transparent person.
It's because I follow you.
Yeah.
I'm not watching you thinking, what's going on there with Shakirah?
Yeah, well...
Like, I wonder if I can get her to do my social media work for free. Like,
Thank you for not being there. A lot of people ask that kind of thing, actually.
Of course, I'm sure they... No, but I do see your posts. So that journey, and none of your posts got any like this kind of attention, huh?
Yeah, but I think that what people resonated with in the Bo-Kaap video in particular was the fact that I was I was angry.
Yeah.
You know, I was so angry. I have this friend who, if you go on Instagram and you search #Bo-Kaap, you'll see this blue car that pops up everywhere. And so that car belongs to my friend, and he lives in that house, right? It's like a greenhouse, whatever. And sometimes I would be there, like just sitting on his stoop and kind of like looking out. And I'm using his house in particular because it's like in the heart of Bo-Kaap. It's like in the most popular spot.
Yep.
And his car is actually like one of the most photographed cars, I think, in the world, actually.
Yep.
And so when we chill there, like just friends or whatever, and you sort of just look out over the stoop and you see the sea of like tourists and people with money and buses and like hundreds of people being offloaded every single day.
Yeah.
It kind of forced me to become vocal.
Got
I
you.
wasn't someone who paid attention to that kind of thing, but you can't not pay attention to it when it's all you see.
And it's on your doorstep now.
It's literally on my doorstep. That's like not even like an exaggeration or just like a phrase that people say. It's real. Like it's
people walk on your doorstep literally.
Yeah. Like we actually had to put like a gate that sort of covers our stoep because people are there all the time and like constantly taking pictures of your house and when anyone in Bo-Kaap goes through this, especially the people who live in the part of Bo-Kaap that I live in, which is like the very touristy area, because that's also what's annoying about it and what kind of forced me to become vocal is the fact that there's what I call the 2-street threshold.
Got you.
And the 2-street threshold is it's Rose Street and it's Kapini Street and like a little bit of Whale.
Yeah.
And if you've never been to Bo-Kaap or you're not from Cape Town, that's kind of like it's like literally just the beginning 2 roads of like our community.
Yeah.
And that's where all the tourists go, and that's where all the colorful houses are, and like all the pictures you see on the internet of Bo-Kaap, like that's those 2 roads. But if you just take the time to walk 5 minutes further, you'll see what you see in any South African sort of community or hood or suburb, or you'll see people that don't have jobs, a lot of joblessness, a lot of drugs. People are not able to make ends meet and are living in dilapidated governmental flats, and just like it's not what you see in the 2-street threshold. People are really struggling, and so that kind of just it's annoying because when you go online and the media and the tourism industry and even the government and the city of Cape Town and all of them, like all they talk about is, Bo-Kaap's this beautiful community,
sure.
Cape Malay cuisine, Cape Malay culture, the most colorful community in Cape Town,
sure.
like whatever. But then actually, no, we're not just one-dimensional. We're not just like the community with the colorful streets. There's so much depth. There's so much history. There's so much culture and tradition and poverty and issues and things that need work, and there's just a lot more than colorful houses.
Yeah.
And so I was just annoyed and forced me into anger.
Enough was enough, eh?
Yeah. And then made that video, went viral, and boom, here I am today.
Talk to me about you. I mean, we're going to touch on something which you've touched on beautifully there, but sometimes things like, because a lot of these things you're talking about is quite uncomfortable for the people that are going to profit, number one, from the gentrification. But let's talk about the line that always is used, of course, to squash those that aren't in power. And let's face it, money is power, right?
Yeah.
Money is portable power. I always say this to people. That's all money is.
Yeah.
It's nothing else. You can get philosophical about it. I've heard people say it's energy. No, money is, all it is portable power.
Yeah.
If I have more of it than you, and I don't care whether you think this is right or wrong, but we've seen the pattern now.
Yeah.
If I have more money than you, I will say what the value of your life is.
Yeah.
That's it, right? And now talk to me about, in a situation like this, people always go, let's not show too much of the truth, because what about the tourism? And like, how does that make you feel? Because it's always, let's face it, the narrative always comes from generally rich white people.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, Cape Town has this dark hidden secret, right? And if you talk about it, you don't love your country. It's like, no, I love my country more.
Yeah, because that's why I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
And sorry, you use the word secrets, and it's like, I don't think it's a secret. I think it's just ignored. People, and not only just in Cape Town, I think in the whole of South Africa, there's just like, but like maybe in Cape Town in particular, because we're like this big tourist destination.
Yeah, sure.
There's just like this huge part that people know exists, but they just turn a blind eye,
Sure.
And by people, I mostly mean like people in power.
No, rich people.
Yeah, people who have the ability to make change.
Yeah, black and white, rich.
Yeah,
if I'm rich, I don't have to deal with crappy stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And so, sorry, now I forgot your question because I was just thinking about
No. I just think, this notion, like you're saying, is, okay, let's show the facade of the two, what did you call it?
The 2-street threshold.
Threshold, which I like.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
And
it's so far from it.
I love the art of marketing. I'm in content creation. I'm in marketing. I'm in media. So I understand and I very much am with the art of marketing. But there comes a point where, basically, I'd love to hear your side before we get into it. Is what does that feel like when it's now not this beautiful facade and it looks, that's all they're showing people, But right next door, your cousin, you know, like, not like someone you're going to read about in newspaper.
Yeah.
Your uncle's on drugs 2 streets away.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody talks about that. And nobody even deals with that. Right? And then there's this facade of, oh, it's not going to be good for tourism.
Yeah.
Like, what does that feel like? Like,
You know-
like you're almost these commodities.
Yeah.
Like,
that's exactly.
Like, you people here are, you'll be valuable enough because, oh, you got the right kind of brownie skin. So you'll be in the photos with the guys from Switzerland. It's going to look amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what about the drugs? Oh, don't worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
even if you think like not just the drugs, but like, what about the people who can't eat today? What about the people who are living 3 generations of a family, up to 22 people in a 2-bedroom apartment because land in the city is just so expensive? You know? Yeah, and people often say that kind of thing. The same with gentrification. It's often their defense. Like, gentrification creates jobs. You know, tourism creates jobs. There's opportunities, and yeah, there are opportunities, but there are gatekeepers to those opportunities. Like, who are the people who the opportunities are there for? It's not the people of the community. Like, they're not the ones who benefit. It's the people who are benefiting and who are gaining from these opportunities are the people who are gentrifying and creating, but like, more unsustainable tourism. You know, so that's what's annoying, and that's what I think led the community to protest in the way that they protested during last year. It was about this time last year, and, and everyone knows Bo-Kaap for being a very like chilled, welcoming sort of community, because that's the nature of colored Muslim people. When you think about them, that's how they are, you know. And so I think South Africans in general, but and so people were surprised actually by last year. By the way that the community mobilized and how vocal they were and how forthcoming they were with the issues and what we're talking about. But it's just it got to a point, it was boiling, it was bubbling underneath, you know what I mean? And then eventually it was just like, actually we cannot anymore. Because what was happening is everyone that was benefiting were people who already had big corporations. You're seeing these big guys like the Hilton Rosses of the world and the X and X companies of the world coming in and just sort of like dropping these huge buses and making all this big money and charging like expensive, like ridiculous amounts of money for tours. And then the guides who take tourists around, they're not even from the community. Some of them are even white people who are talking about like Cape Malay heritage, and it's just like, what do you know? Some of the stories that tour guides tell tourists, they are atrocious. You know, I haven't heard a story in a while, so hopefully they've stopped telling lies, but the types of things it's because obviously if you're coming on a bus and you're from Germany, you don't know if what this guy's telling you is true or not. You're taking his word because they're a tour guide.
Well, there's a brown person. It's probably true.
You know, it's just, and so they're not. They're not from the community, and they were just like lying, and our identity. This is my personal perspective.
100%.
I can't say that the whole community feels this way.
Sure.
But I felt like our entire identity as Cape Malays and Bo-Kaap also represents identity for me a lot, and we can talk about that in a bit. Sure. But our identity was kind of being erased because all we were becoming is the most Instagrammable spot in Cape Town.
I can feel you.
And so it's frustrating, like, that we're just the most Instagrammable spot. You know, and there's just there's just like this, I experience a high level of anger all the time, every day. It's exhausting being there and seeing this kind of thing happen. The same, people say gentrification is going to bring jobs. Like, oh, maybe we'll employ some people from the community. Okay, cool. Maybe let's say you employ 20 guys to build your building. The building takes a year and a half to build, and then what? They're out of work again.
100%.
And you know what you've done? You've just built a luxury apartment going for 3 million, 4 million, 5 million rand at minimum, you know, for the smallest one. Zero affordable housing. Those 20 guys that you hired, they're out of work again, and now we have parking problems. We have more rich people moving in, people who are buying apartments at ridiculous amounts of money, making the land even more expensive.
Levies go up.
Do you know what I mean? It's not contributing to the community at all. It doesn't work. And so you're asking me how I feel about that as a person, and there's no other way to describe it besides angry. It's the anger is so real. It's so intense, and it's exhausting to be this angry every day and to see it just get worse and worse and worse. And
I mean,
I actually, that's all I can say about it.
It is anger, and you know what? There's a few things in what you're saying for me which are an impending disaster for South Africa on a larger scale, but I think worldwide on a larger scale. But we can talk about South Africa. Number one, people are not just commodities.
Yeah.
If you keep treating people
Yeah.
like commodities, do you know what they do? They eventually bring guillotines out.
Yeah.
That happens. Like that. We mustn't say, oh, now Cape Malay people are more violent. No.
Yeah.
The French Revolution is not that long ago. Like
Yeah.
people, when they are, to use a Cape Townian and a very South African, when they're hurtful, they're hurtful.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I think one of the tragedies of this is, and nobody ever wants to talk about the overlying problem, right? Because it's inconvenient. Capitalism in its current form reduces everybody to their utilitarian.
Yeah.
So what are you worth to me? I have the money. What are you worth to me?
Yeah.
Not are you human?
Yeah.
Because I think if we view, for lack of a better term, is capitalists, brutal capitalists, don't view people as human.
No.
And how I know that is that if you viewed people as human, you wouldn't let people die like they do, like rats in the sewers. And nobody wants to talk about this because all they're worried about is the profit.
Yeah.
And that's sick. Like we're sick. And now there ceases to be a color line now. Anybody who gets into the cream is starting to show this behavior.
Yeah.
Right? And that worries me hugely, that people always justify the madness with, what about the jobs? What about the money that it's going to make? No. What about the preclusive measure that you keep putting in by putting levies are way too high for anybody who's, third, fourth generation in Bo-Kaap?
Yeah.
Because they aren't educated at UCT, because they couldn't be educated at UCT. In fact, it was illegal for them. Like, these are uncomfortable conversations that, you know, Shakirah, and I'm sure you've lived this, power doesn't like to hear the truth.
No, it does
And we
not.
saw it beautifully with this Bo-Kaap thing. As soon as people started to tell the truth, so Bo-Kaap isn't just an Instagram place.
Yeah.
We're starving.
Yeah.
Our identity's been taken from us. Oh,
No. Yeah.
bring the violence in.
Yeah.
And this is where my problem comes. Is I think, and one of the most worrying things for me, and I'd love to hear for you, is how good the nation state, the state is at violence. You saw once people started to tell the truth, people started to come out. Like, no, you're supposed to protect the people.
Yeah. Yes.
Eventually, the people are the, like,
Yeah.
and you know, I had a great friend of mine on the other day on the couch as you sit, Wayne, and he speaks for Lawyers for Human Rights, and he's extremely influential. And one of the things I brought up to him, which I thought maybe I was going crazy, is we've demonized poverty. We've criminalized poverty. So not only do we create the poverty, but if you are poor, you're a criminal.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when I saw this, I thought, you know, I'm repulsed. And once again, I'm sitting drinking my flat white in my air-conditioned house. Those people are living it. They're living being to capitalism useless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And then when you want to tell the truth, it's a problem, right? Now talk to me about. You know, we're always talking about.
Sorry, I'm
No worries.
I'm just thinking. I was just yesterday. I was driving.
Yeah.
And there were like these homeless guys sleeping on the side of the road, not disturbing anyone,
100%.
not doing anything, literally just like sleeping.
Yeah.
And these metro cops came in and started giving them fines and like kicking them and sort of disrupting them. I was thinking to myself, like, you're really here spending the taxpayers' resources on giving these people fines when where they're supposed to go. You're going to give them a fine. Number one, how they're going to pay it.
Yeah.
Right? You're kicking them out of this spot, but where they're going to go? They're going to go to another spot on a different street, and it's just that image just came to my mind of seeing that and how people are being treated. And I was thinking to myself, they are so low at the bottom, and now you're making it even worse. We have honestly forgotten that people like that are humans. That people are humans. Yeah.
But we made poverty a crime.
Yeah.
They've ceased to be human.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. It's almost like we as the middle class, that's not how we want to be seen. So get rid of them. That's too true.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, no, that's too true. That's not how I want to be seen.
Yeah.
We are prosperity. And you know, Shakirah, as Bo-Kaap was going on, and it kept going on. It kept going on.
It is going on.
And it is going on. And
Yeah.
the violence started going up from the people. because people aren't stupid. Just because I don't have a PhD from UCT, don't think I'm stupid. And I've seen that in the people. Now, Shakirah, what happened with the violence? Because then it started to get violent from the state against the people. What then? Well, and what was that like?
You know, it's so sad. Like, two incidents are coming to my mind when we're talking about this, and I'm just going to share them quickly.
Absolutely.
So one was last year and one was this year. So last year we were protesting in Wales Street and sort of at the beginning of Bo-Kaap, and someone was driving and this girl got knocked over, right? So now she's getting knocked over. Cool, they're calling the ambulance, whatever.
Tourist or
no, a local,
Bo-Kaap resident?
Yeah, a local girl. She gets knocked over. It's like sort of like a hit and run.
Yeah.
And there are all these police cars who are there to man the protest, right? And it was a peaceful protest. And so there are all these police cars who are manning the protest, and I go to the one policeman and I say, this girl's knocked over. Can we do something about it? You know, can you call someone? Can you radio? Can you put her in the car and take her to the doctor? You know? And he says, sorry, I can't. I can't get involved in that because we're here to look after the protest. And I was just thinking to myself, so you'd rather just be here sitting on your ass and doing nothing and watching a bunch of people standing with placards instead of actually helping someone, you know? So that incident comes to mind. And then number two is a lot more sad and so heartbreaking. Was when the community was protesting this year against the crane from coming into the 40 on Al, which is a luxury block development.
Okay.
Yeah. The block is, let's not get into that.
Yeah,
do you know the company, the construction company? Block?
I don't have any allegiances, whoever they are. You can say it. If you want to say it, feel free.
Yeah. So the 40 on Al is this luxury apartment block, and it's done now. It's already there. It's happening, even though the community took them to court and there was interdicts taken out, and it was just such a long process, and we try to fight it. But anyway, it's there and it's happening and it's done.
Yep.
And so earlier on this year, we were trying to stop the crane from coming in.
Got you.
And so people were just standing there, sort of making a human chain to stop this crane from coming in.
Yeah.
And you know what happens? Next thing, we have policemen coming in their all black gear with these riot little shields and throwing stun grenades at us. And these are aunties and omas, samosa making omas from Bo-Kaap who are just here reciting prayer, trying to protect the community, something that they've had for their whole life, something that is so important to them, something that is so rooted in who we are as a people, you know, that we're just trying to protect who we are, that's all. And these policemen are here throwing stun grenades and literally being so violent, pushing, creating, I don't know what a formation, a line, and just pushing people and dropping these stun grenades so that the crowd can disperse, so that the crane can come up. And at one point I went to one policeman after they had thrown a couple of grenades, and it was probably about 20 minutes, half an hour later, and things were a little bit calm before the next round of pushing and stun grenades had come. And I eventually just went to this one policeman because they were all just chilling there laughing and just having a good time. And these are black people, colored and black people, the policemen, you know?
Got you.
And so I'm going to them and I'm saying, not to make it about race, but you're one of us. I mean, actually, it kind of is about race in South Africa. Well,
no, it always is.
You can't separate.
No, it always is. I don't know why people say color doesn't. No. We need to address that as well. Is people must stop saying color doesn't matter. No. It clearly matters.
It clearly does.
Especially if you're on this planet right now.
Yes.
I don't know how.
In this time.
Unless you're I've heard celebrities Samuel L. Jackson and Will Smith kind of go off the radar, but they're not in the real world, right?
No, they're not.
In the real world, color matters. People must stop talking. We're not all the same.
No, we're not.
Stop saying that because it's not true.
Yeah.
And people must accept that, and people aren't comfortable with it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just because you're not comfortable about something, it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So these were all black and colored policemen, and I go to them and I'm like, you're one of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm 100% sure that you have family who are in the same situation as the people who are from this community.
100%.
You know, in terms of the fact that there's a huge joblessness issue. You know, people are struggling to make ends meet. People are struggling to make money, etc., etc. And so it's what's happening to our community in Bo-Kaap. It's not far removed from who you are, from what you're going through, from what you know to be true. And I just asked him are you not disgusted by this? By the fact that when a big developer makes his call to his friend that he's got up there in the city of Cape Town, that he probably pays a little bit to every now and then to sort of like keep him where he is. So now all of a sudden, because we're having a peaceful protest against Block, you want to come out here like in a huge army truck, so many of you wasting resources, trying to throw stun grenades at like old ladies.
Yeah, 75-year-old women.
Yeah, like how do you as a person feel about that? And all he said to me was like, when I put this uniform on, my feelings don't exist. And that's the problem though.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like that's the problem, is that you know as a policeman what you're doing is wrong.
My feelings don't exist.
Yeah, he said that. When we put this uniform on, we do what the law says. The law says, I clearly remember him saying this to me. The law says that, like, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said to me, like, what you guys are doing is wrong because this developer bought the land and so they're allowed to build there.
Sure.
And I said, but what the developer is doing wrong, what the developer is doing is wrong.
Sure.
You know, what the city is allowing the developer to do is wrong.
Yeah.
And why do you guys, as the police, if this is the law, never do anything? When we as a community go through things, right? When something goes wrong within, let's not only just think about Bo-Kaap, let's think about any community that has like any form of violence or any form of issue. Like, you know, we can talk about the Lavender Hills and the Mitchells Plains and the Khayelichas, etc., etc. When things are happening there, do the police respond in droves like that? No, because there's no one with big pockets and deep pockets in those communities that are calling you to come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I said to him, you know, this is wrong, and it's just, they're just like pawns. Like this big company that has all this money is making a call and saying to their friend, like, sort these people out.
Yeah.
You know, and then boom, we sort it out, and you get thrown stun grenades, and then the crane goes up. And now we have a big building there that nobody wants there, that is being sold as luxury apartments, and is just going to make things so much worse for us. We also, there's another building that's finishing off that's closer to my house in the corner of Strand, and literally when I look out of my window, out of my bedroom window, that's all I see.
Yeah.
It's just this monster of a building that is now there. And I'm a modern woman, right? I'm all for like change and modernizing things and getting better at life, because change is inevitable.
Sure.
Right? It's just the way that it's happening and the way that people are being treated and the way that the voices of the public get ignored.
Yep.
I'm not okay with that. You know, it's just, no, it's not okay.
So you know what you're telling me is a misunderstanding of what the law is supposed to do, and you know that if our gatekeepers and our peacekeepers, right, this is why we need them. Now, I've chatted to a few friends about this who are far better versed than me in terms of the law, but essentially, you know, the law is actually not there to protect the society. It's to protect the lowest common denominator from the society. Because we know now when people sit in the city center around the world, New York, Cape Town, Joburg, we know what they mean when they say the society. They mean the middle class and upwards. Right?
Yeah.
Like the society. That society doesn't mean everyone. So actually the law is to protect you. It's not to protect the society. The society have enough money to build walls and get electric fencing. It's to protect the lowest common denominator, because we live in a capitalist society, so the poor. And most people are poor. And in this case, we're seeing ideology being experienced, and this ideology here is violence. Right? And it's sickening to me because, Shakirah, there's something called necropolitics. And people hear it as negro politics, it might as well be, but it's necropolitics. And what it is, it's actually, it's an ideology of the Walking Dead, basically. It's when you have power, right, is violence here is okay. So it's called necropolitics, and it's a very interesting school of thought. And I'm seeing it more and more. And because I live in Cape Town, Cape Town's nice and easy to see it because the divide is clear.
Yeah.
Joburg sometimes, black people are there, brown people are there, so you can't really see. They can confuse you a little bit better. But here it's clear, and what they're telling me is violence is here. Violence here is okay. And I think there's something dirtier happening underneath, is violence is here is okay because the capitalists say it's okay. And that's like another level, right? Because now what I'm kind of seeing, and you would know, is the capitalists are buying justice. And then what? Then we're all dead. Because I'm middle class, but I'm not as rich as those guys. They're coming for me next. Like, I'm, you know. And Shakirah, that really, really scares me, that what you're saying. See, I didn't know about the tear gas.
Oh, yeah.
And the stun guns.
There are videos.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I can share videos with you.
That is so crazy.
And pictures. Literally, children, like, okay, maybe teenagers,
Yeah.
like, who are trying to fight for what they believe in,
Yeah.
being dragged by
Yeah.
police.
Yeah, yeah.
Women being put in police trucks and taken away and not being allowed to eat, not being allowed to have a drink of water, like,
Yeah.
for protesting peacefully.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because we are making a line and standing firmly doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we're being violent. We're
Yeah.
still being, you know, and people, there are videos of people praying, like, while this is happening to them. You know, they're like, if that's not a sign of peace, then I don't know what is. Why, like, yeah. Anyway, the pictures are horrific.
Scary. No,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I'll put all of these links up. We'll chat now. I'll have all of it. What, you know, and I think before we move on from what is a tragic situation, and I mean, there was an injunction, I think, that came in, and elements of Bo-Kaap, I understand, are now protected as as heritage. But I mean,
Yeah.
it may very well be too late, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or is it possible to still protect enough to keep?
So.
Because another thing that no one talks about is, this is all the people have.
Yeah.
They don't have a second house
Yeah.
in George.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a holiday
Yeah.
house in Paris.
Yeah.
Like,
This is not
This is
just,
how the rich think. Like, it's like, oh, okay, they can just go to their holiday house.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, and if I can I just take this opportunity to sort of just tell people a little bit about how the rates and that sort of situation works in Bo-Kaap, or how it actually works anyway, because a lot of people don't often understand, and I do sort of like public speaking around this
100%.
kind of thing often, and people always ask me this question. So basically, and you might know this, but for anyone who doesn't, like, if we are neighbors,
Yeah.
and I've inherited my house, and I'm the 4th generation of someone who's lived in my house, and maybe my great like grandfather, grandmother, they built the house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they've passed it down, and so I didn't pay anything. I'm just living here,
Yeah.
and I pay rates to the government,
Yeah.
right? Cool. So now you're from Germany, and you come in and you want to buy the house next to mine,
Yep.
and you've got 6 million rand, and you're willing to pay 6 million.
Yeah.
When you buy that house, it automatically makes the value of my house 6 million rand also.
100%.
That means that my rates now goes up to someone who has 6 million rand, but I don't.
Got you.
A lot of the times I'm a pensioner. A lot of the times I'm the 4th or 5th generation, and I'm working an average paying wage. If I'm lucky, I'm working a job that pays an average wage.
Got you.
You know what I mean? And so in that situation, when all you have is a SASSA card and you're getting a grant from the government, your whole grant's going to your rates. And people love their community so much that they're willing to sacrifice. You know what I mean? Why
Yes.
are you looking at me?
No, I'm deeply, I'm deeply interested in what you're saying.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to clarify for anyone who didn't know, like, that's just one of the examples of how other people buying houses and buying land in Bo-Kaap affects the community. And at the end of the day, like, when you're behind on your rates because you have not been able to pay the government for the past 6 months, and you all of a sudden owe them 15, 20, 35,000 rand if you haven't been able to pay it for longer than that, you end up selling, because what are you supposed to do? You're just making more and more debt because you're holding on to something, but eventually reality kicks in and says, hey, like, if you don't have
Poverty.
money, we don't want you here.
Poverty is a crime.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I do.
So now that's what, because people often also say things like, oh, but why do the community sell their houses?
Yeah.
And it's just like, do you think that they would do it if they didn't have to do it? You know what I mean? Like, people wouldn't willingly sell something that's so important to them. And you can ask anyone who's from Bo-Kaap, and if they're not from there and they maybe 1st generation moved out of Bo-Kaap, even they will tell you they love it. They wish they could come back. I have friends who studied with me in high school, or who went to school with me, who have moved out because they couldn't afford to live there, and all they talk about is how much they want to come back and how much they love it there. And so, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that and give you a practical example of sort of like what someone else's actions, how it can affect and how it does affect the community.
Yeah, so I'll actually I'll be talking to somebody about how all of that kind of works. There's somebody who'll be coming on in the very near future. So yes, that is a great way to put it. But you know, something that doesn't come across to most middle class people, because I'm always like, I'm middle class.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happens to me is my life goes down the tank. I was moving with my mom.
Yeah.
You know, that's but I have to be real with it. You know, and for me, it's come to a point where something that double saddens me. So I'm sad at the violence, because violence for me is a scary thing as an individual, and I experience most of this world as an individual, which is sad, and I think it's part of the current problem both sides are facing. But you know, what a lot of people in my position as middle class, upper middle class, and then you get into the Ubermensch class, is poverty is experienced as violence. And a lot of people don't understand this. You know, it's like when people are violent, it's always, oh, stab, shoot. But poverty is violent if you are on the outside of the cream, as most of people are. People in Bo-Kaap, people in Bishop Lavers, people in Khayelitsha, they live in violence. You know, people here where I live is, oh my God, did you hear somebody jumped over the gate and something happened?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
They stole my mango.
The monster. No, but I mean, listen, I hate to say it. I'm never ever going to say violence is okay, because it's not.
Yeah.
But, you know, the people jumping over my fence, I've been tied up a couple of times and blah, 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 you know. So, and I will never justify violence. But what I'm saying is being poor is experienced as violence.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
They just go, oh, why don't they just work harder?
Yeah.
I can't work harder because I've been beaten spiritually and physically. I am unable, I have no pride. Like we know through psych and, you know, and I think that's something that's important, is that people in we're talking about Bo-Kaap now, experience a double violence.
Yeah.
You are poor and the police will beat you for being poor. That's two crimes. Poverty is violent.
Yeah.
You know, like, people need to realize this. And
Yeah.
and I do, you know, I have the fortune of sitting around upper middle class people all the time because of where I work, people I work with. And I listen to some of the conversations, and, you know, as I've been living in Cape Town, I've had to retreat from social circles more and more because I can't tolerate it, because I come from poverty, actually. My beginnings, my parents come from rural South Africa. So when I see something like Bo-Kaap, it's incredible. You're poor, so it doesn't matter what you say. And, okay, well, the law will try to stop us. You know what we'll do is we'll keep piling more money. Can you afford to beat us?
Yeah.
You can't afford to beat 4 or 5 of these property companies, because it's a conglomerate. And quite frankly, what's 100 million to them?
Yeah.
Because on the back end of a block is they'll sell the apartments for 400 million. You know? So what's 100 million in legal fees? And they probably know the lawyers.
Yeah.
So it works out for everyone.
Big construction companies who get involved in this kind of thing, often they factor in the activists into their, like, it's a thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they know the activists are coming, so it's probably like part of their budget, like, okay, marketing, admin, and then, oh, the activists are coming, so these are the fees to deal with them, kind of thing. It's so insane how to them it's just like an expense.
Oh, collateral damage.
Yeah, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can speak to people from Woodstock who have been moved to the outskirts of the city, like that. It's the same situation.
It's brutal.
I just wanted to, so you're talking about violence and things that people go through, and I'm 100% with you that I'll never condone violence, because it's never okay.
Yep.
But so there are, it's died down a little bit, but obviously during season, Bo-Kaap experienced a very high robbery rate, right? And sort of crime rates and that sort of thing.
What, on tourists?
Yes.
Okay.
Right? And so people are often like, oh, what are we going to do about this? Or it's
about
so
what?
terrible. It's so terrible that this is happening. Like, it's going to affect the tourism and et cetera, et cetera. But this is what people don't understand. When when you have a dog, right? And you're putting a piece of meat in front of it, like, and you're saying, don't eat it, don't eat it, don't eat it for like days on end, but you're not feeding that dog. At some point, he's going to be like, I'm sorry, you can't just like shake this piece of meat in front of me. I'm going to take it.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so what's happening in Bo-Kaap is there are buses of euros and dollars and coming in every single day. Yeah. Big fancy cameras, nice Ubers, luxury convoy vehicles, all of these things. You know, you're coming with you're flashing your money, you're buying paintings on the side of the road, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You're carrying your big camera around your neck. And you're telling me that someone who hasn't eaten for a few days, or someone whose family has been having financial problems for the past year, or
10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
People are poor.
People are desperate. Yes, they're just trying to. And maybe I don't want to rob you, but I've been seeing you for 3 years, and at some point I'm feeling like this is unfair, so I'm gonna take it. You know what I mean? And so. No one wants to acknowledge that. No one wants to talk about that situation in Bo-Kaap in particular. Because obviously, like, this kind of thing is happening all the time where tourists are coming in and flashing their money. And so what you have is this two very contrasting worlds who are constantly being forced to to engage one another, where one is kind of like, they can't really do anything about it. You see, tourists come to Bo-Kaap by choice. You know what I mean?
100%.
You walk around with your camera around your neck by choice. You flew to this country by choice, whereas the residents of Bo-Kaap, like, they don't have a choice. You're in my space whether I want you here or not. You're taking photos of me on my stoop whether I want you to or not. You're looking into my window while my family's eating whether I want you to or not. And so at some point, like, I'm not saying that I condone the violence, but I can definitely understand it. And I can see where it comes from, because people need to survive, you know?
Well, you can't keep treating people like, it sounds like you're describing a zoo. So you want to treat people like animals, but you want them to behave like human beings.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. And once again, power. I have money. Not only will I treat you like this, but you'll like it. That's the sick part for me. Is you will accept it. No matter how I dehumanize, no matter how much I make you scrape and bow, you will like it.
Imagine you and I had to go to Bishop's Court and walk around with our cameras and start taking photos of people's houses.
Oh my God.
Just imagine that.
Oh my God.
Literally, like.
No. I don't have to imagine it. I'm black. I have a mentor who lives in Bishop's Court. They still look at me funny now.
It's ridiculous.
And I went to school with your sons, Mrs. Jacobs. I sound a little bit like your sons, but still, it's, you know, it's so clear. It's, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And here with Bo-Kaap, it's more interesting. And the gentrification. We're just talking about Bo-Kaap. For those at home, Bo-Kaap just happens to be because that's where Shakirah is from and representing. But you know, because I feel it here. The preclusion is because for me, I'm not intimidated by the spaces. I've been exposed to these guys since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
But now I can feel it, and it's me. I work with the CEOs. I'm in rooms with these guys all the time. Yet I'm telling you, you don't have to imagine the Bishop's Court thing. I'm living it. Every time I walk to my mentor's house, I still get it. I still get the eyes. What's he doing here?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll leave 8, 9. I don't live too far. I'll walk home. Like, could you imagine me with a camera in Bishop's Court in your gate? Like police, straight away.
Yeah,
No,
immediately.
No, they don't even want to hear it. Plus, brown skin.
Yeah.
Put him away. Put him in jail.
Yeah.
I don't want him near my sister and my cousins and my friends that have come from the UK. And once again, it's we will exclude you and we will not apologize for it. And I think Bo-Kaap for me was a landmark in my Cape Town experience about a year ago, because it showed me once again that violence is okay on some people, and necropolitics is a very, very, very real and very old thing. So we mustn't think it's new to us. And you know, for me, I'm unapologetic. For me, bias to black always, right? But most critical of black. My bias comes with critique.
Yeah.
And what sickens me is now we can do something about it, even if not a lot, because the preclusive measures in Cape Town are still old, still white, right? Like let's not pretend Rupert and the guys aren't mucking about. They're not letting go of what's going on here.
Yeah.
So now tell me, Shakirah, as we moved on from that, I mean, something that you mentioned a little bit was, you know, part of the erosion of Bo-Kaap, Woodstock, what you might call many of the Malay real Cape sort of identity, sort of landmarks, you know. Identity is a huge thing, especially in a world where we talk a lot about identity politics. You know, that's being eroded because, you know, a lot of people, I think, my perception of culture is, how do I relate to the land where I am? That's how I perceive culture. It's a very simplistic view. Yeah. But for me, whenever I hear...
It makes sense, though.
Yeah. Whenever I hear the word culture, it's how do I relate to where I am? Yeah. Right? And then you express yourself from there, whether it be the Swiss telling you they're always on time. Yeah. But they'll tell you always about their Alps. you know what I mean? Yeah. That's how they see themselves. You start to see yourself from the land beneath your feet at that time. Yeah. Now, with this erosion, talk to me about, when we talk about identity often, you know, so there's Cape Malay, which you emanate from the Cape Malay people. But, you know, there's a blanket statement that gets thrown, coloured. You are, what's he? Herschel Gibbs, coloured. Okay? You're coloured. But there is an identity politic within that. And talk to me about, you know, so I have to be honest as well. Before I moved to Cape Town, I lived in Joburg, and I was exposed to a different type of a different part of the coloured spectrum in Port Elizabeth. That's where I studied, and that's where I lived. And then I moved to Cape Town, and it's different here because there's a Cape Malay vibe here. There isn't that in PE from what I experienced. So talk to me about coloured identity and where you fit in, female, Malay, and then what that spectrum is. Because I'm like, oh, Herschel Gibbs, he's coloured. Oh, Shakirah, she's coloured. You know, to some of us.
Yeah.
And until I'd like to think I've educated myself a little bit more in my time. But there's just that. Oh yeah, those coloured people. but actually, it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah, it's such a complicated discussion to have, but let's try to just touch a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I know you do talks on coloured identity, and maybe you can expand on what those talks are, and maybe you could even tell us what you talk about in Cape coloured identity. Maybe you could even just go through your normal talks.
Okay.
Maybe that'll be
Okay, so it's. Okay, let's just go back quickly to the sort of land and relate to where you are kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to just tie it into Bo-Kaap, but then a sort of nice segue into the coloured identity thing.
Got you.
So I might have even said this to you before, but someone once asked me, a white person, actually, who lives in the community, who's been living there for about 20 years.
Got you.
Actually asked me, and I just want to say that also not all white people are gentrifiers. It's a very strange, because people think like automatically if you're white and you buy a house in Bo-Kaap, you're a gentrifier, but that's not necessarily true.
Sure.
This person asked me, why do you fight for this community? Like, why are you involved here? Why do you come to these meetings, like community meetings and that sort of thing? And I actually didn't know how to answer them. And then they said, okay, well, take a minute and just think about it. And so I thought about it, and I took about 5 minutes, and there was like this period of silence, but I'm thankful that they gave me that time to sort of figure it out.
Yeah.
And I realized it was because I live in South Africa, right? Which is part of Africa. And when people think about Africa, they think about
Although
black
Cape
people.
Town would dispute that.
Also very true. I mean, this is Little Europe, though. We all know that.
Yeah.
So I live in Africa, and I consider myself African. I'm South African.
Got you.
And a lot of people equate being African to being black, right?
Yeah.
And so I struggled with that a lot from university until about last year.
Yeah.
Trying to figure this thing out where like, I'm African, but I'm not black. And some black people always like, some people have even said to me like, Shakirah, you can't use that word. Like you can't identify as that because...
As what?
Because, like as black. Or sometimes even just as African, and I don't generally identify as black, but when we're speaking about the larger community, that's also another complicated discussion to have. Let's just pause that one and finish this one. Otherwise, we're gonna like be jumping all over the place. Hold on. So it was very difficult for me to understand like how I was an African person who was here, but I looked like this kind of thing. I'm this complexion, I have this kind of hair, my eyes are kind of like almondy, and so it was a very strange thing for me to figure out. And when this person asked me why I'm active in Bo-Kaap, I realized because Bo-Kaap actually made me feel, or it gave me a reason as to how I became African, and as to how I became a part of this nation that is just so beautiful, in terms of culture and like diversity and all of that sort of thing. And so Bo-Kaap is like a physical manifestation of my identity.
Got you.
And that's why it's so important. It's one of the oldest communities and suburbs in the country.
Yeah.
It is the birthplace of Islam and Muslim people in South Africa. That's where Islam in South Africa comes from.
Yeah.
It is the birthplace of this, what we call sort of Cape Malay identity.
Yeah.
And so if you wipe away that piece of land, the little bit of it that is left, because to be honest, Longstreet, De Waterkant, all of that used to be Bo-Kaap, even down to when you're driving to the waterfront, that area where the My City buses now park, that was all part of the same community.
Yeah.
And we've been shrunken down into this like little piece of land of that's now sort of still left. And if you take that away, it'll kind of make me feel really lost. I'll feel kind of like, do I even belong here? Like, and so that, it just ties into your sort of like culture and identity is related to the land that you're on. But now sort of moving into colored identity and Cape Malay identity and that sort of thing. So
it's quite a broad term. Like,
yes,
I
colored.
mean, and I'm happy for you to unpack it, and this is why we do long format conversation.
Yeah.
This is not the news where Deborah Patel will cut you off.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, colored is a broad term,
Yeah.
a very broad term,
Yeah.
and it encompasses a lot of different groups of people.
Yeah.
You know, like Khoisan identity and discussions around Khoisan identity are now becoming very sort of, I don't want to say mainstream, that's a terrible word, but more vocal. Or people are starting to people are starting to talk about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so that's also a group of people who kind of fit under this general sort of color term. But then also, like, if you literally had like a white parent and a black parent and then you were born, like, that's what people think colored is. But actually, in terms of like Cape Town, you're colored if you're anything that's not black or white.
I got you.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So you could literally like be from Khoisan heritage, or you could be a product of a white and black parent,
Yeah.
or you could be a Cape Malay, or you know, there's like so many different, and there's even racism within the colored community. Like, this is something that I always mention at my talks. I remember being younger and like people telling me, oh, Shakirah, you can't play with the girls who have like the bossy kop.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I have straight hair, so like I wasn't allowed to play with the girls who maybe didn't have straight hair.
Those blackanyana
Yeah.
features.
You know
Blackanyana,
what I mean?
smallanyana. Yeah, the
it's
trouble
like,
cause.
Yeah, it's like you're like kind of better than them because your hair's sort of straighter than them, kind of thing.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
and so that's just one example of how like sort of the racism within the community exists.
Got
you
you,
know?
got you.
And also like the fact that some Indian people even fall into the colored sort of term, and obviously they were the ones who were the doctors and they had the furniture stores and
Yeah,
they lived
yeah.
in the nice houses.
Yeah.
And so they have racism towards people. Well, I don't know if racism is the right word, actually. There should be another word for it. Discrimination?
No,
Yeah.
I mean there's an element of
Yeah.
racism, because remember that there was also something that people may or may not know, but in apartheid, certain races, Indian being one of them, got given slightly better rights, being a certain type of colored as well,
Yeah.
so straight to hair, nyana,
Yeah.
just above black, so they could get educated.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
could continue. Yeah.
And so all of that exists within the community as well. And so and it's a very strange, you know, I have a very big problem with the fact that a lot of colored people are racist towards black people.
Yeah.
A lot. It's like it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And my family, like a lot of my family members, sometimes I hear the things that they say and I'm just like, you know, I'm now the family member where people are like, hey, we can't say these things around Shakirah.
Yeah, she's here.
Shakira's here, like,
She's here now. Yeah.
you know, like, you better watch what you say.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't mind being that person because I can see, even on my granny, who's like on her way to 70. No, I think she's past 70 actually.
Yeah.
You know, and even with her, like the apartheid didn't number on her. You know what I mean? And so, but I can tell that I'm starting to get through. It's taken years, and slowly but surely the things are coming, you know, where I can hear like, okay, she's starting to like second guess some of the things that you said. And so a part of me thinks that it's because now I'm having all these different thoughts of things that colored people go through. But
Yeah.
I feel like during apartheid,
Yeah.
colored people, the one thing that they had that they were allowed to have,
Yeah.
that they were allowed to be proud of. The government said to them, "You're better than the black man." You know what I mean? And so that became such a big part
Yeah.
of who colored people are.
Exactly.
You know, we're better than the black man.
Yeah.
And
It's something.
we might not have anything. You know, we might be living on the outskirts of Cape Town.
Yeah.
We might be, et cetera, et cetera. We might not be able to work the good jobs. We might not be able to go to university, but we're better than the black man.
Yeah.
And so that still obviously continues, you know, and it's even so sad when I see like young kids, 10 years old,
Yeah.
saying things like, no, I
No,
don't.
you can say it.
The K word.
Gaffer. No.
Nah, I would not say that.
We've said it on the podcast before.
Okay, cool, yeah. So
And I heard it just last week being thrown in my direction, by the way. So don't worry about that.
Hectic.
I'm not triggered by it.
you should be like pump slapping people.
No, I expect
But
it.
it's also just to be respectful. It's a very disrespectful word, so let's not say it. But
But
you
hold
know,
on. I'm always interested why people don't want to use, especially when we're in a didactic space, we're trying to teach each other. For me,
Yeah.
the only people that don't want to hear it is white people, mostly, because it's like, no, you have to hear that about yourself. For me, I don't understand who we're protecting whenever we don't say it, but I respect it. I respect.
I feel like some black people are triggered by it.
And I think they are, but I wonder if that is a conditioning that, oh, that's a bad word, let's edit that out.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're like, oh, we shouldn't hear that about white people.
Yeah.
Like we said that. No. Let's edit that out the language. That's not like that's not how white people want to be seen as.
Yeah.
Like
that's an interesting perspective. I never thought about it that way.
Like the K word, who you're protecting, because my parents know what you mean.
Yeah.
My father was locked up multiple times, and like I say, I heard that word last week, and the way the guy used it, he obviously uses it all the time in my direction, and I'm walking on the side of the road, by the way. So for me, I'm not triggered by once again, gaffer, nigger, because guys, it happened. And stop trying to
pretend that it didn't.
And stop trying to sanitize the Western space so you don't have to hear that about yourselves. But that's just my opinion. I mean, and I do respect people who don't like to hear it. But anyway, you were saying some colored people tend to use that type of language.
No, not just some colored people, children.
Yeah.
Like not even teens, like pre-teens, kids. You hear them like continue the sort of like just the train of thoughts, and that makes me really scared.